and welcome to Arife's Cinderbrew Meadery, Resto Druid tips, tricks, and kicks commentary video. As soon as the timer starts here, you are definitely going to want to put your hots on everybody, put those rejuves, put those germinations on the entire party, save the tank for last, and put hots on him as he's gathering stuff, because then he is trying to get aggro, and you don't want to take healer aggro after having hots on everybody. This is going to be a race for DPS. You're going to want to have your hots rolling on everybody the entire time. You're going to take advantage of the abundance talent by trying to maintain your stacks of abundance at 10. Then you'll be able to crit regrowths as people take heavy damage with this huge pull. This pull has 4 Pyromaniacs in it. The Pyromaniacs will cast Boiling Flames on a random player, which does need to be interrupted. They also apply a magic debuff to a random player. You'll need to dispel these whenever possible, or you should use your dispel on cooldown. There's also a couple mobs in here that get enraged. It's not even worth trying to soothe them because there is so much going on. The most dangerous part of this pull can be the muscles. Sometimes there are 2, and sometimes the tank will pull an extra one, bringing the number up to 3 total muscles. The muscles cast an AoE that inflicts a fire dot to every member of the group. They also cast Throw Chair, where a single target gets a heavy hit of physical damage, and they also can be enraged. The Tasting Room Attendant casts Cinderbrew Toss, which spawns a ground effect that will deal damage and disorient anyone who's standing in it. At a 16, you will be killed by it if you are standing in the ground effect. And then we have the Patrons, which honestly, before looking it up, I didn't even think they did any extra damage. Apparently they do apply a stacking bleed debuff to the tank, but they die so quickly, they are a pretty safe mob to pull. I was so focused on healing here and avoiding that ground effect that I'm not even looking at the trash. Now we have Chewy. It's really important that Chewy is not pulled with any muscles. You can probably get away with Chewy being pulled with a muscle that is extremely low health, but you want to avoid it because Chewy has an aura that increases damage done by nearby allies, and the throw chair is so deadly when you put it alongside things like Chewy's AoE that knocks players back. If those 2 moments align in this dungeon, you're just dead. So it's better to just pull Chewy on his own. You could get away with pulling Chewy with a Pyromania and like a couple patrons, but never combine Chewy and a full health hired muscle. Chewy's going to follow a pattern of 2 different casts. He casts Tender Eyes, which is an AoE that knocks all players back. You could turn into a bear for that to protect yourself from the AoE damage. And then he's also going to cast High Stakes. It's going to spawn ground effects that if standing in them, I think you die probably on a high key, but on a lower key, it will just stun you. It's easy to avoid them. Be aware of where those circles are spawning. You'll definitely want to heal everybody up to full in between each AoE. I honestly should have been casting Wrath here to just try and get some mana back. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking, die, Chewy. So now we have Brewmaster Aldryr. We did have the tank pull in a Pyromaniac and some patrons to just add to some of that funnel for the DPS. Those could be brought in with the left side of the room when we kill all the trash over there, or with the boss. Brewmaster Aldryr is going to throw Cinderbrew here at 2 players. It's going to spot a hot honey puddle underneath you upon application, which players should immediately jump out of, to the point where if you see the animation of the brew being thrown at you, just move as it's happening. You should use a personal when you get hit by that. That could include bark skin or iron bark for you. With this boss, you're definitely going to want to save Iron Bark for yourself in case you get the dot twice in one phase. You should move your life bloom to whoever is taking that dot so you can heal them up faster.
Watch your step.
If the dot is happening and you don't really have much left to handle it, such as a Swift Mend into a regrowth on one target or a Nature's Swiftness into a regrowth on a target, then you can just go ahead and cast Convoke, and it should also handle the dot. Now, the boss does take reduced damage when he's behind that bar, but there I was just trying to get some mana back.
Watch your step.
That big fire conal is called Blazing Belch. If you stay close to the boss, then you can bait that belch in a direction that is useful to where you need to be moving.
Deeper from you.
There we go. Only one death on that boss. And this is one of those dungeons where that double life bloom build is so helpful. Coming into this pack, you're definitely going to want to put some hots on everyone. Watch the tank's health. You might have to Iron Bark him. Definitely use your interrupt as frequently as you can. You are going to run into a couple different mobs here, including the Hobgoblin, the Taste Tester, the Pyromaniac, and the Flavor Scientist. Pyromaniacs, you saw them in the first room. They are going to channel Boiling Flames at a random player. The Hobgoblin is going to target a random player and charge toward them, and they will knock it to the player or the wall, depending on where you've baited it. I like to turn into a bear when that is targeted at me, just in case he accidentally hits me. That way I don't die, just like immediately.
Charging. Move.
Then there's also the magic debuff that will need to be dispelled. That causes a lot of damage on the player who has it on them. There's also the Taste Testers. They will cast free samples at a random player. They also cast Spill Drink, which gives them an enrage buff after the full cast. It's helpful to try and soothe the taste testers as much as you can, especially if you can see a free sample is about to go through, because that free sample cast is going to do heavier damage to the target if they are enraged.
Charging, move. Charging, move.
There is a new mob type in this hallway called the Flavor Scientist. The Flavor Scientist will apply a magic buff to an ally that heals it over 18 seconds, called Rejuvenating Honey, that will need to be kicked. They also summon something called a Failed Batch that starts a 10-second cast, which inflicts AoE damage to all players upon it exploding. All the DPS should change their focus to the batch immediately as soon as one goes off, because it can lead to a party-wide wipe if it does.
Charging, move.
Every time that hobgoblin runs into the wall, you are going to want to try your best to heal everybody up to full before the next one goes off if you have more than one hobgoblin in the pole. Oh, I forgot to mention that when the hobgoblin runs into the wall, he also summons 2 brew drops, which will target kind of the closest player to them. So if the tank doesn't get aggro on them immediately and they happen to be targeting you, just run towards the tank so they can grab aggro.
Enrage. Charging, move. Enrage. Run out. Enrage. Charging, move. Enrage. Enrage.
I was a little worried about the tank pulling this group in with IPA because there is a dispel with the pyromaniac, but it ended up just fine.
Enrage. Watch your step.
IPA is going to do an 8-second channeled cast that deals damage every 2 seconds and spawns fire pools on the ground. Some of them also spawn brew drops. DPS are definitely going to want to press a defensive for that spouting stout because it's pretty painful. But you as the healer should have your hots rolling on everybody, and you definitely don't want to stay standing in one of these circles because it will kill you. But if You could just have your hots rolling on everyone and just try your best to add in a couple of regrowths here and there. Then that is really helpful. Or you can save your Convoke for that moment. On a lower key, you don't have to use your Convoke. On a higher key, you almost are required to use Convoke during that moment because we don't have a lot of ways to handle that amount of AoE damage without having to stand still and cast Regrowth on everybody. And Convoke at least is a spell that you can stay mobile for to avoid all of those circles. The boss is also going to cast Burning Fermentation, which applies a dot to 2 random players. You're definitely going to need to dispel the players who get the dot on them. You also might want to save your bark skin for that phase, just because that dot is pretty heavy. And just as you did with the first boss, move your life bloom around to the person who still needs dispelling so you can do focused healing on them. You can use your Vortex and Typhoon to help crowd control the brew drops, blow them away from the boss, or put the Vortex in a position where it will pull the brew drops away from the boss.
Watch your step. Collide.
Pretty low on mana here, which is a little scary. Luckily the boss is pretty low health and hopefully will die soon.
Goodies don't know who you're dealing with. You do any more damage, and I'll cash you out, you hear me?
The Purveyor is going to cast Honey Volley, which does need to stay interrupted because it is going to slow any player within 60 yards. It's really important that Honey Volley stays interrupted because the Harvester is going to cast an AoE that puts dangerous circles on the ground that you do need to avoid. When you're slowed, it is very hard to get out of those circles. The Bee Wranglers also need to stay interrupted because they will cast Bestial Wrath, which will enrage the caster. If a Bestial Wrath does go off, you can soothe the Bee Wrangler to get rid of the enrage effect.
Watch your step.
There's also the Beezookas, and this is a long fixated cast on a random player that shoots a bee in a frontal line, inflicting some damage and knocking you back a bit. Those can be outranged, or you could just turn into a bear and take it. Towards the end of this hallway, you'll run into worker bees. They apply a stacking bleed debuff to a random player. The beelets apply a stacking magic debuff to the tank that slows them.
Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step.
So just in general, a lot of stacking damage in this dungeon.
Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step.
Be careful of where you stand here because you could pull the pack on the side that you've skipped, and you also want to be careful not to pull the boss. There's that Bestial Wrath. Keep it interrupted here. Not that much damage going out.
Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step.
Benk Busby. Benk Busby is going to cast Honey Marmalade. With Honey Marmalade, the boss is going to put a little circle around the tank. The tank will need to bait those circles along the wall to keep them out of the way of the DPS. Benk Busby is also going to cast Fluttering Wings, which will cause a pretty decent-sized AoE, and push everybody back. Just make sure your hots are rolling and that you have rejuves up. And you can use Swift Mend into Wild Growth to help handle some of that damage. Or you can use a Convoke. The boss is also going to cast Snack Time, which is going to spawn barrels that attract ravenous cinder bees. The bees are going to cast Shredding Sting, and that applies a bleed effect to a random player. To help with that bleed effect, you can go ahead and in-cap roar, and it'll interrupt that cast, preventing it from going off and preventing that bleed from happening. If you time it right, you can get a lot of them. If you can help with the barrels, I definitely would recommend it, so the DPS can just focus on killing this boss.
Pushback incoming. Pushback incoming. Pushback incoming. Pushback incoming. Back incoming.
You also can run right by those bees that are next to the doorway there. As soon as you hop on the bee line, they will be de-aggroed.
You take out my bomb, my prototype, and my beekeeper. And now you're riding
Before the last boss, we have Yes Man.
weirdo.
There's 4 of them. You can put your vortex down to CC them at the start. Unfortunately, the CC does not work after the first one dies, but it can be helpful because it'll pull one of them back to just keep being DPS'd by your party.
Watch your step.
The S-Man will cast Downward Trend and leap out at a random player. Just stay out of that circle. It will cause a bleed if you get hit. And then there is also Field Promotion, which when one of them dies, then the rest of them get healed up to full.
Watch your step.
You can use this opportunity to regain all of your mana back if you take Master Shapeshifter.
Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step.
Gotten my employees. But now you're dealing with the CEO herself.
Goldie Baronbottom fills the room with multiple Cinderbrew bombs. They are going to detonate upon being struck by the boss's abilities. Ideally, the tank takes care of all of the big barrels and none of the small barrels get exploded. It is important to have your hots rolling as that happens. The boss is also going to cast Let It Hail, which upon reaching 100 energy, she detonates every Cinderbrew bomb and deals fire damage every second for 5 seconds. You can use your defensive on that. I would also save Convoke for that moment. It'll be back up in time for the next Let It Hail. There's also Burning Ricochet, which will apply a fire dot to 2 random players. There's also a Dispel in this fight, but I couldn't find the name of the ability that causes it. But it will cause
Special coming.
damage to anyone who has the debuff on them. As long as you save your Convoke for every time the boss casts Let It Hail, you should be pretty safe. Let It Hail is a great spot for other DPS to help use their party-wide defensives such as AMZ, Mage Barrier, or Darkness. And that is Goldie Baronbottom. Thank you so much for watching my Resto Druid tips, tricks, and kicks video. I hope you learned how you can help use your toolkit to time this dungeon.